Kiss Corner, welcome to the show. Hi, I'm RT Bear, and I'm one of the hosts. We have Kevin Conrad, we have Scott, and we have Tag. So we are the four amigos, and we are Kiss Corner. So hey, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Great.
Yeah.
So I hope that intro didn't spook everybody. We're working on it.
Working on a I'm working on a soundboard right now. Hopefully we can use, but it's going to be a surprise what the actual sounds are.
Yeah. So welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, exactly.
Yeah. This is our weekly, not so weekly live chat where we talk about Kiss.
Weekly, not so weekly, slightly out of focus. But
yeah. Sometimes the audio is loud, sometimes it's low.
No.
Sometimes Scott cries.
I cry for no reason. No one knows why.
Oh, I forgot to say your last name, Scott Palacios. And Taylor Groff. I didn't say your last name, right?
And Kevin Conrad.
And Kevin, I said Kevin Conrad.
You did say Kevin Conrad.
Yeah. So there, we're all introduced now.
We're all introduced. Well, lots of Kiss news with the tour rolling its way out of San Diego, I think last night. Last night was San Diego.
Was Vancouver their last show, though? Or
Vancouver was opening night. That was opening night on the 31st of January. And then I think last night was San Diego, and then Sacramento is tonight. I don't know if they're doing another night in Sacramento or is Orange County tonight? Is the Honda Center tonight?
Not
maybe.
Sure. I know they just they've done like 5 shows already or something.
Oh yeah. And there's footage of every single show.
Yes, there is.
You know, but I don't know, for better or for worse, I guess, with with some of the lip syncing rumors and stuff, which they haven't really hidden from, or really, I don't know. I don't get the impression that they're covering anything up. Kevin, you have something to add to that?
I'll be there. No, Paul Stanley has time and time again said that they're live. It's the best show ever. There's not going to be any tracks that they're playing to.
No.
I mean, he's made some bold claims. But just to back up a minute, this episode is going to mainly focus on the end of the road tour and the lip sync controversy. Have a little bit of footage that we're going to try to show you guys. Scott hasn't seen this; it might spoil his weekend.
No, haven't seen it.
But and then I thought we might wrap it up with some of the bold statements that Gene has made about rock and roll being dead. So we got a lot to cover. And do we have a hard out with you, Kevin, today?
No, I'm actually good. My band practice got canceled. My Paul Stanley has got an abscess the size of a golf ball, and he's still going to play tomorrow night. But he's on antibiotics, and he's trying to take it easy.
Well, maybe he needs to lip sync.
Yeah.
to be authentic for the truth.
Yeah, I was going to say you'd actually be authentic.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Well, we need a little more time for that, I think.
Okay, should we show the controversy first and then start talking about it, see if we can do this?
Let's do it.
And by the way, we got a couple people in the chat. Level 3 says that he is going to be he's going to go see the band next week. So this is not to ruin anybody's experience. We've been posting in the Kiss groups on Facebook. And I know there's kind of like a lot of people who are like, oh, just enjoy it. But I think this is a fair discussion considering it's causing a major division in fans.
And there's 4 of us, and we're all coming from a different point of view. So if you guys in the chat want to chime in on your position on the lip sync controversy, the one thing that this episode will do is we will debunk the whole lip controversy. You guys can see it with your own 2 eyes. that there is a reason for the controversy. So you want to play the clip? Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Yeah.
All right.
This is the infamous clip, and this is from the YouTube content creator In My Head.
Is this this is not the Vancouver show, though, right?
No, I don't know where this was. He doesn't. I think he might say, but I think this was before. We'll see.
Well, the Vancouver show was the first, so this
Opening night, yes.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Because we just saw the opening night, and that was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely not from that. So let's watch this.
Oh no, he's not even facing the mic.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Wow.
you can see that
he's clearly not. Yeah. So that's why I opened it with "Welcome to the Show" because
welcome to the show. Yeah.
On the Psycho Circus song.
One more time here.
Let's see it. Let's see. Oh wow.
Oh my
So there's
See
no.
who he's pointing to? He's blaming the drummer.
Yeah, did you see him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you hear like that? I guess the story, the way it went down, is that Eric had dropped had dropped a beat or something. So Paul moved away from his mic to scold him like a parent and a child, and then he in turn missed his own cue. So you talk about poetic justice.
Oh my
Paul
God.
just outed himself right in the show while scolding Eric.
When did you hear that? I hadn't. How do you know that? Did that come out as part of the story?
That's
Yeah.
part of that guy's, the guy who's narrating that video.
Oh.
This is what he's
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy. His name is In My Head. This guy. He does some good stuff.
You know what? I've seen him. I think he's the guy that posted the Vancouver show. That's him.
Okay, yeah.
We should see if we get him on the show, maybe.
Oh God.
Welcome him to the show with the Paul Stanley yell. Did you hear the yell?
I know, but he like foiled himself. You're right. Like he
I like that it still has the echo on it too, so you still hear
he foiled himself.
But yeah, you can see he's pointing. But I guess the story was that the drummer missed his cue and started late. So then he turned because he was angry, and then the track played.
Oh.
It's very poetic though. It's like Paul has done nothing but try to nix this thing from the very get-go, that he wasn't going to be singing to tracks. There were going to be no tracks. They were going to be, they're out on stage, just the four of them, all this stuff. And then by his own hand, he outs himself.
And he foils himself. Yeah.
In the biggest of ways. So anyway, chime in in the chat, and what do you guys think of this?
I'm curious to hear what I mean, God, this thing, it's weird. This tour, it just seemed, from the beginning, there was just a lot of, with the set, the whole thing with the set lists and not being true to classic Kiss. It just seems like there's just so much negativity surrounding the tour, like even from the beginning. And then again, like you said, that he's been a big proponent in we're just going to go out and it's just going to be rock and roll and no tracks. And they posted rehearsal footage of them, just the four of them just rocking out, and Paul Stanley just singing through a dry mic, and just bare bones. And I don't know. To see this it's very disheartening, but like I said, I'll be there tomorrow night too, sitting right there, my fist in the air. And
I think the best thing he could have done, and what they should have done, is they should have just got out in front of it from the very get-go and just say, yeah, we play with tracks. Or like Trunk says, there's no shame in it if you have other members, like even behind the curtain or whatever, playing with you. Because even that band Muse, they don't hide it. They have a keyboard player that comes up on stage with them.
Well, even Kiss, they have a keyboard player that travels with them. Actually, on one tour, it was actually Derek Sherinian from Dream Theater he was the keyboard player. And then I think that was on Revenge. He might have gone out with them. And then I know, from being, doing AV and stuff, I know a guy that worked at a arena. I won't say where, but he did a Kiss show, and I guess his big thing was that he goes, there's a whole other show going on like under the stage. There's a whole other, you just have no idea.
Well, but if you guys are seeing what we're seeing on the screen, there's probably 3 or 4 other shows going on. Look at that. That's insane.
It is insane. Look at that. That's enormous.
Yeah, I'll play this through in the background while we talk. I'll give a shout out. I don't know who this YouTube content creator is. I'm going to find out who uploaded this because this is really good footage. This is from Love You Live. Did this footage. And
this is opening night.
That looks like opening night. Yeah.
We'll go ahead and play this through just in the background. We talk just as a visual, so you don't have to keep seeing Paul Stanley's.
Oh no.
So what do you guys think of this then? Because there's 4 different points of view here, on how maybe they could have got out in front of this. Why didn't they do it in the first place? Like, let's just talk.
Can I chime in?
Yes.
I just think, it's just no secret, obviously, that over the last several tours, even when I saw him on the Live 35 tour, I think, at Lake Tahoe, up in Lake Tahoe. Even that, like just the recreation of the Alive album. I don't know if Kevin, maybe you even saw that tour, but it was pretty obvious they were playing to a lot of stuff. And I was real close for that show. I was like within the first 10 rows somewhere. I was pretty close. You could feel the heat and stuff from all the pyro. But so they've been doing this for a long time. Mostly through non-makeup era, I think. I don't know, Kevin. I never got to see them. You did, I'm sure. The non-makeup era. They were using stuff like this then, right? Through non-makeup era.
I don't know that they did. Like, a keyboard player in the background and maybe somebody harmonizing in the background. But I don't know that they weren't doing anything like this. How is that? I can't even imagine. It's got to be more work for. Imagine the pressure on Eric Singer.
Oh God!
To have to, he's got to be playing to some sort of click track.
Oh, all the time. No. Yeah. All the time. He's got to be locked into complete. The show cannot vary. Like that's it.
Yeah, and there's that other comparison with the night 1 and night 2 with Detroit Rock City, and
right.
It was virtually identical in meter and Paul's singing. It was virtually identical.
It's exactly the same.
It's impossible.
But I did not know. Now, maybe you guys did. One of you had heard, but I know that obviously they're playing to stuff, but I didn't know, and this could just be being naive, that included the vocals.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
I think the instruments and stuff. It seems like they're legitimately playing those. It seems like. Yeah. Paul is really, because I'm pretty sure Gene isn't. It sounds like Gene is legit so far.
And the thing is, this is also like, I think, what is that saying, like, thou protest too much? I think initially just protested too much because they were very rigid, and he was very rigid about the set list.
Oh, totally.
Like, it was really like, this is the set list, this is what we're going to play. And I think what he was doing is he was trying to preemptively defend the set list because it is so choreographed. Like Kevin said, it is so rigid.
You can't put a song out. Yeah.
Any kind of impromptu song or anything like that. Yeah. And then in this one, they have that kind of, it seems like an impromptu Who, like Baba O'Reilly thing.
Right.
But it's all still, you can tell it's very well rehearsed.
Yeah.
But it kind of gives the illusion of spontaneity, like they just winged it. But if you watch every one of these shows, they have the same spontaneous moment built in to every show.
Exactly. Exactly.
They do.
And it's a show. And it is a show, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. It's a show. Just like with Van Halen, as loose and rigid as those shows seem. David Lee Roth had said that often they're very, like, if they don't, it's a show. Like, that's the show every night. Even if they, as drunk as they were. and the shows I saw them, in the heyday, they weren't great. The show was pretty rich. But he said that's it. Like, that's a very rehearsed show, and that's what they do. So it's a show,
And to be honest, when I saw them in Austin, Texas, a few years back,
that's right.
They were touring with Def Leppard, and you talk about a band that was playing to tracks.
Oh, I saw that tour too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! But the thing is, for some reason, I still think of Kiss as just four down and dirty like rock guys that they were never tight and they were never that
no
anyway. So when you see somebody like Def Leppard, you already know, like when you hear their studio stuff, you already know there's all kinds of tracks and there's all kinds of sound effects.
You know what you're going to get,
So for some reason, like, it didn't bother me when I saw them, Def Leppard. And then when Kiss came out, I knew they were playing to tracks, but after seeing Def Leppard and the amount of tracks that they were obviously playing to, it just seemed like tit for tat. You know what I mean? It just seemed like that's what bands do now,
That is. And it is so common, and, it's just commonplace. Or like a lot of bands, like a band like Green Day, where they just have more musicians on stage. There's just to fill out the sound. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff going on, but they just have, and Foo Fighters too, like they have other people playing, even though, you're there to see the core group, but you want the records, you want the sound as close to the record, maybe. Yeah, just bring out other people or have other musicians filling in. I mean, Journey's done it forever. I'm sure a handful of other bands, but the thing with the tracks is just, I don't know. I mean, you guys, is it deceptive? I mean, we're all aware that it's happening. Of course, worst case scenario is Def Leppard, where it almost sounds like they're just playing along with a record. But I remember one of the first times I'd ever witnessed that was Duran Duran, I think on the Seven and the Ragged Tiger tour. It seemed like they were literally just lip syncing to the record. I mean, there was so much stuff on there. There's a documentary where they show them sound checking, and they're checking the monitors, and it sounds like they're just blaring the album through the monitors, and that's the show. That's it.
That's different. I think that's a major disappointment. I asked the chat as a main question, I guess, to pose. Like, would you care if you went to your favorite musician's concert and you knew they were lip syncing? Ray said, care, yes, but would it be enough to turn me away? Not in this case.
Exactly. I'm going. Yeah. I mean, I'll be there.
We're all kind of at.
Well, I want to hear what Kevin has to say, because I got an observation too, but I think my observation wrapped this up too quickly. So I want to hear what Kevin has to say.
I'm disappointed that they've gone on this long because of this type. This is ultimately not going out on top.
Sadly.
And it's sad. It really is sad to see your heroes like this. Look at Paul Stanley is a god to me. And so he's and I get it. He's almost 70 years old. When you're 70, when I'm 70, when we're all 70, are we still going to be doing the same things we love to do all our life? Yes, we will. Will we be as good at it, or as fast at it, or anything like that? Probably not. But own up to it. What they did, they like Art said, own up to it. They for years prior to any of this stuff, like they were always like from the Milli Vanilli thing and on up, they were always, you'll never see this from us, like making those type of vows and promises. This is, we're a live band, with all the warts and all, that kind of thing. And it was very clear from the last, 6 to 10 years that Paul's voice has been failing, year by year. And he clearly sounds 20 times better with these shows than he has in a decade.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. I don't care. It doesn't happen. So own up to it. Would I rather hear Paul sounding better and having to be a voiceover or however the heck they're managing to do it than to hear him cracking his voice and going out of key? I hate to say it, but I think yes.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's just that's it. Like you said, it's just warts and all. I mean, that would be.
Yeah.
Well,
like you say, what Eddie Trunk says about Van Halen is David Lee Roth his voice is gone, but he still goes out there raw and sings those songs for right or wrong.
Yeah.
And no apologies. This is just the show.
Yeah.
So.
And Paul has said in past interviews, like in the recent year or so, like if you want to hear Paul Stanley sound like Paul Stanley from Kiss Alive, or
listen to Kiss Alive.
Listen to Kiss Alive, because that's not who I am anymore.
Well, you brought up Kiss Alive and the first one. I was just thinking about this while you were talking, Kevin. Was Kiss always a live illusion? Because those Alive and the first album, Alive 2 and Alive, those aren't even legitimate live albums.
No.
So so have they always kind of done this? Have they always kind of had this illusion that they were this raw, rock live act spectacle? Or were they always kind of this band that pledged that and put that out there, but really weren't a real live act or legitimate?
And we've all seen them live.
Yeah.
And they are certainly a live act to be reckoned with. I mean, I've seen them. I can't tell you how many times, 30 times.
Wow.
Maybe, and outside of, maybe the Def Leppard one, and probably the tour before that, I was never disappointed in the sound, So, and it's certainly them playing up there and warts and all, because they certainly made a lot of mistakes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they are by far, one of the biggest live acts out there. And if nothing else, take a look at this stage show that they got going on here. This is insane.
Massive.
It's massive. It's insane. And you are sort of going for a show, and that's what it is. It's a show. And I would much rather see Kiss in the Revenge era or the Creatures of the Night era, but those days are gone, man.
Yeah.
They're
Did anyone else notice in this video that like that little girl they just showed is wearing earmuffs or her ears?
I keep thinking, like, with the, I don't know why this just popped into my head, but my brother had season tickets for the Kiss Arena football league thing. And one of the things you get as a perk for the tickets is they play, I don't know if it's they play a couple shows a season. You get tickets to a show they play there at the arena after the game or something. But one of the shows, he said, and it wasn't that long ago, because I don't know if the team folded, or I don't know how I don't follow it, so I think it might have already folded. But he had tickets, and he actually offered, me to go. You can have. I can't go. You want to check it out? And I wanted to, because they were playing. They were going to play that night. He wound up going, and he said it was the weirdest thing, because they just, the stage, they set it up, and they play right after the game. But he said that they came out the last time that he saw them. They came out. He said it was just like an almost let's get this over with thing. He said they played the best set. Like, they opened with Creatures of the Night. He said they did like Plaster Caster, I Stole Your Love, and it was clearly live. Like, he just said they just came out. It was a no frills. There was no set. It was just them with some amps, and he said it was like the best set like that he'd seen in years. And like, why can't they do that? Go out and just rock with that. Yeah, I mean, come on, Plaster Caster, I stole your love. I mean, that's even just Creatures, just opening with, Creatures, that would have just blew me away. He said it was, and he showed me, like he took pictures, and they were just on this little tiny, Eric had a pretty small kit, and they were just like, let's just get through this and, get the hell out of here. But he said it was great. They just came and tore the roof off of, and he said there was nobody there. It was at the Honda Center. Nobody really stayed. And he said it was amazing. I thought, well, God, I wish I could get that show, that'd be awesome.
Well, I think they could do one-offs like that, but I really do think they're gearing up for, I mean, these got to be daunting, these year tours and stuff like that, night in and night out. And I do think, I'm a little bit of an older guy, and I'm realizing my limitations. So, maybe these guys are just like, we want to tour with something that we know we can do every night. So the show is very rigid, and there's not a lot of unexpectedness in there, and that maybe there are some backing tracks to help out Paul's, maybe weaker point. Or at the very least, give him a little bit more confidence to get out there, that he's got a little bit of a crutch that will help him through some of the set. And, night in, night out, you hear a lot of these singers talk, and it does become very daunting. You break a guitar string, you can replace it. You break a drum head, you can replace it. But when your voice goes, that's your instrument. There's no really repairing it.
Yeah, that's it. And like we repeated, time and time again, it's a show. I guarantee you watch any of these shows, I bet the choreography is exactly the same every night. Yeah. It's a show. It's, they're giving you an actual very well. I'm sure they did this for months. I'm sure they rehearsed this exact show for months.
Well, look at all the cues, like you guys on stage. Look at all these cues. Like there's probably 5 or 6 things going. Like we talked at the beginning of the show, that there's like 5 or 6 things happening, beyond the stage.
There's tons of AV, projection, everything synced up perfectly.
Yeah, so it is very rigid, and there's not a lot of room for spontaneity.
No.
I'm sure that they're going to tour with this quite a while, in this form, but they might, break it up and do some newer songs or different songs later.
I think later on one of the other legs, I think you're right. Like the later legs of the tour, I bet you they'll change it up a little bit, and maybe add some more some more Dynasty stuff in there, or some more Destroyer stuff or Love Gun stuff.
Well, they better bring in Dr. Love, because I need to hear some Eric Singer cowbell.
Right?
I don't know about you guys. When I was a kid and I heard that song, I lost my crap.
With the cowbell?
Yeah, just that intro, don, con, don, con,
it's on the offbeat too.
But even,
exactly.
But even cowbell, you take cowbell aside, the groove on that song kills me. I love that groove.
Yeah,
it's so right. I mean, that's just some of his best play. Honestly. That groove on that is just so funky. The little ghost note things that he does, and I love it. I can't hear that any other. It's great.
I remember as a kid when I heard that, I was like, "Doctor of Love, is that a thing? Like,
is that an actual thing? Is that a thing? Rock and roll pneumonia,
you can fix your love, man, when it's broken.
You got to fix it."
What do you guys think of the stage that they have for this tour? It's pretty cool.
Well, apparently Tommy Lee doesn't like it. From what I read, they're ripping them off. Yeah, ripping off.
What?
Yeah, he said it's identical to the stage, the production they used for the final tour, which I didn't see any photos or footage of the Motley Crue stuff, but there was a statement this morning on social media that he said it's identical.
I could see if I could find it for comparison.
Yeah,
I think it's those crane things that Gene and Tommy go out to the backside of the audience, which are pretty cool. I mean,
is it really?
I think they use those.
Let's face it, if Motley Crue getting butthurt over this.
That's what I said.
Who started the whole game, man? Like,
I
really,
know.
get down on a band that you obviously were made.
You guys are huge fans of. I know.
That's a little hypocritical.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I think didn't he sue? He sued somebody because they had a roller coaster on
Yes.
on a roller.
Yeah,
I don't know who it was.
a rap or a hip hop band.
Or somebody. He sued. Yeah, he went after him. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, well, Kiss didn't go after Motley Crue.
Exactly. So. Like they're not wondering what you're doing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? They're not worried about what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So Taylor, what do you think about the lip sync controversy?
I don't know. There's kind of like, I guess there's kind of been a split of whether or not you're even going to a Kiss show for like, I guess authenticity, whether it would like really matter, or if you're going for, you know, the spectacle of going to something like this. Like, look at the screen. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but what do you?
It's awesome.
I don't know. I guess I wouldn't mind at all if Paul hadn't made a like big hubbub about how authentic he was. Yeah. Like if he had never like boasted about that and then this got revealed, I wouldn't care. Like it's just the hypocrisy that even matters, I think.
But they did. He did, yeah. Like you said, that protests too much, and yeah. Oh well.
And let's see if the chat says, Unknown Gamer says, Paul Stanley should just do what Ozzy does with another singer in backstage.
In a tent. I know, in a little tent. Exactly.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is? Even if he has somebody singing along with him the whole time, on the albums, they're doubling up those vocals.
Yeah.
So what does it even matter? It's so weird. Like they'll spend all this money and all this tech and all the pyros.
Yeah.
Just hire somebody that can sing with you. The thing that I thought that Ghost did this time out, because I've seen him a couple times, and I've seen him at smaller venues, and obviously Ghost is a huge stadium act now. And when I saw them, you know, a couple years back, they were obviously playing to tracks. They had so many tracks. It was insane. But the new tour, they have all those guys that used to be like they used to use tracks for. They're now on stage with them.
Playing. Okay.
They have like another guitar player, but I think they just wanted to give him something cool. I mean, he's probably playing some rhythm, but he's mainly there as a backup singer.
Yeah.
And they got the 2 keyboard players, and one of them's female. So, you know, they're obviously, you know, so they can do those big choruses, like those big type choruses. They have, you know, the singers doing that. And I still think they're playing to tracks because some of that chorus stuff is still really, really big sounding. But the thing is, it's at least it's as legit as you're going to get. And they got out in front of it, you know, because they knew this time out, it's going to be a big, big show. They're charging more money, and they need to be legit. So they kind of did it reverse of Kiss. You know, they just went and got out in front of it and just tried to legitimize the stage show as much as they could.
Well, I have a question. I've never seen Ghost now, nor I don't believe I've ever really seen much footage, but do they use a lot of projection and stuff? Are they using screens? And
I'll tell you, this Kiss show, like, just play this Kiss show down by maybe, I don't know, 60%, 60, 70%. So the Ghost show, based on this Vancouver show that we're watching now, is probably 30, maybe 40%
of what the
Kiss show. But they're a more sophisticated band, so the effects are more they're more sophisticated. You know what I mean? It's a little less in your face. But there's some showstoppers with just lighting effects, and emotional like moods that they set with the lighting and things. And it's obviously set up as like a church, like a what do they call, like a podium type thing? With huge stained glass in the background and things like that. So, and then that Papa character, the lead singer, has multiple costume changes.
Oh God.
Things like that. So I would imagine once they become more known as an arena band, and if they can keep the hits coming, because I think they had 1 or 2 like hits on the newest album, and obviously they got a Grammy award for the album prior and actually played at the Grammys. That if they can keep this going, they may have a chance to be the next Kiss, I think.
Next Kiss. Wow.
Yeah, their show is big, Scott. It really is.
The reason I bring that up is that, you know, when there's things, a lot of, you know, audiovisual stuff of that size and scope, you know, a lot, and I heard this brought up with a band like Queensryche, who used, you know, projection and with the whole Mind Crime thing, and it basically being a movie inside of their show. And that, I get it, like with playing to track. Speaking of a band, there you go, that played to a lot of stuff, Queensryche. But it's all locked to, you know, SMPTE. So, you know, the video's locked in with all the MIDI, and the drummer has to be playing to a click because he's ultimately probably the guy triggering. And we're in the case of Queensryche, I think he's triggering all the projection via MIDI technology and stuff. And it's just so, I know it's so complicated and all this stuff, but that would be the justification for like the Kiss thing being the tracks, because it's all got to be synced up. It's all got to be locked together, you know? So, I mean, that's a justification. I've never heard them rationalize it by saying that, but I get it. It's a huge show. It's got to be all locked together with, technology. And that's it. There you go. It's pitfalls of technology with shows, bigger, better, and it takes a lot to put on a show like that.
If you've watched the entire show, the first night, during God of Thunder, you know, Gene Simmons is, you know, his head is 20 stories high on that screen, and it's young Gene Simmons.
Is it really?
Yeah, singing, you know, the "I Am the Lord of the Wasteland" of modern day Man of Steel, right in sync with what they're doing.
Exactly.
You know? So
it's perfectly linked. It's all simply like film, like you know, picture to audio to picture, and it's got to be exact every night to the second. It's got to be perfect, and that's what I heard. Jeff Tate was talking about the Queensryche shows and just saying, like, it's very high tech, and it's very stressful because any of that stuff could break down at any time. I mean, they have backups and stuff, but it doesn't mean things don't happen. And I get it. So I'm, you know, I mean, I know they're playing the stuff, but I applaud the effort too, to give you the best, you know, effing show possible with the technology that's available to them. And then, like Art, you mentioned, but use it as a crutch too, to maybe make up for any any weak spots in the show. Or
it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's like, to put a modern show like this together,
you need all this stuff.
Have that, you know, sync up to a track. There has to be some way that you can put all of this stuff into some kind of coherent timing signature, and so there's always going to be some artificialness to it, or some I guess stagnation, or a lack of spontaneity. I guess the big thing really is, like Taylor said, and it was my thought as well, I'm sure you guys had it, that if Paul just wouldn't have tried to get out in front of this and say the things he said, I don't think anybody would have had as much of a problem with it. I'm sure they would have made fun of him, you know, when he moved away, and then you hear the, you know, the Psycho Circus scream. But it probably would have been swept under the rug. And also, I don't know if you guys, but Taylor and I heard this as well, that what happened after Paul, the flub of that show, he went back and sang the rest of the song live and the rest of the set list. So have you guys heard anything like that? And you guys might be more, since you guys are still playing and in the music scene, once the track gets screwed up, can you get back into the track timing during that same song, or do you have to wing it after that?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard the same thing. I heard that was at least he had to get through Psycho Circus on his own.
Yeah.
I don't know about the entire show. Yeah, but it's pretty, you know, it's pretty crazy, and you know, it's pretty brave when they're again, when you're being filmed live and your face is 20 feet high behind
exactly.
you, and if you're lip syncing,
yeah,
you're leaving it out there for everybody to see in magnification. So pretty brave, but just own up to it. Say I need help.
He should have just shrugged his shoulders. He should have just shrugged and like, yeah, what do you want? Hey.
No one's really going to hold it against them too much. They are in their 60s.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to go, you know what? We expect Paul Stanley, of the 20s. No one in his 20s. No one's going to hold him to that kind of scrutiny, especially with this kind of spectacle in the background. But just to back up, I didn't get an answer from Scott. So, Scott, how do those tracks work? Because I know as a drummer, you've played to these tracks.
Tons. Even with the working, I played tracks and
So
I was gonna say is, if it screws up, if one thing obviously everything's on a separate track, which actually raised another question. If they were able to get through that without the track, obviously they're playing. They are playing.
They're all playing. They're
that's what I mean. I don't want people. I think people get the misconception that they're not playing. They're playing, and actually, you got to commend that. It's not easy, Kevin. I'm sure you've at one point had to play to something. It's not easy.
It isn't.
It's not. You have to be very skilled to do that and hold it back. And so it's not like, they're just lip sync. No, it's a skill to be able to play with all that stuff and be sort of maintain, a feel and make it sound real. So, so obviously they were playing because they got through the rest of the track without the tracks. So it is possible. But once something screws up, I've even with like I said, doing top 40 gigs and stuff when they're playing with a lot of tracks. Once something goes bad, it goes bad.
So then what do? Do you just kill the track?
Luckily, I've been in control of the track. I just kill it. Yeah, just get rid of it.
So just to kind of one for my own, but even people in the chat. So how those tracks work is they're per song, right? So it's not like the whole 2-hour show is on a rigid time schedule. It's just each song, right?
In my case, it's on a song-to-song basis. In their case, it might be one big file, one huge.
Oh my God!
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
In that full show, I don't remember what song it was. I'd have to watch that thing again. But there was one song where it was a very awkward pause where they were all sort of like waiting, including Eric Singer, for something to happen. And then they started the song. And they were almost like looking off stage. It was weird. I can't even explain it. But and I can't remember what song it was.
You're probably right then. It's song. Maybe it's just a per song, like a file. Yeah, each song is on a separate file, and because like in my case, in my in-ears, when I work with these bands and I play it, there's always I'm hearing the click, so I count off the song because I hear the initial click to start everything off, and so maybe they were just waiting for the guy. Someone was cueing it off stage, or it's a lot. I commend them. It's a lot to deal with every night in a show of that scale,
Let me ask you, Scott. So do you think that they're playing to a 2-hour complete synced show, or do you think it is per song?
I think there's somebody, Kevin, maybe you have a different opinion. I think there's somebody maybe cueing it's song to song, maybe.
It would have to be, because like
I think
stuff
so.
Like 100,000 Years and Ami's guitar solo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff as like you're going to see it night to night, and it's going to be the same thing. But but it's not the timing's not going to be exactly the same for all that kind of. I can't imagine, man. Nobody's a robot. I don't know.
No.
I think in the chat, what it comes down to, because James brings this up, James says, I'm not going to a concert for a band lip sync. I'm paying for something real. And I think a lot of people in the KISS groups, I guess the main debate is, how expensive the ticket prices are.
Oh, they are.
I think if they were possibly less, there would be less backlash to this whole thing.
Yeah.
$200 for a ticket, and then finding out there's lip sync, kind of a bigger deal than paying, say, $70.
No, who was that? What was the gentleman's name that said that? James. Well, James, I mean, it costs a lot of money to put on a show like that. I mean, I know that too. Yeah, it hurts to pay that price, but again, like Kevin, I've said that you better be a fan. Like, you better really be a fan. You know, and it's all out there. You know what you're getting, and you know.
But on the converse, what we've talked about in the past is you've got these fair weather fans out there. I mean, they just want to see a show. They don't know or care that there's lip syncing or not. You know,
exactly. They just want, give me my rock and roll all night, and I'm happy, right?
Yeah, they want the experience. You know, it's almost like you have to, like, it's your bucket list, right? It's like, I saw Kiss in my
Kiss. Exactly.
Which I guess is the main branding of this tour anyway.
The bucket list tour.
Yeah.
That would have been good. The bucket list tour.
Taylor had an observation. Do you remember, Taylor, about just like summing it up? Is it worth it? What is the fan, consensus? There are people that are in favor of it. There are people that aren't. So you want to, and then maybe we can get into our next topic.
Yeah, I think just to weave it into our next subject, because it kind of dovetails into it, is I think a lot of people, this is, like you said, pretty much a bucket list tour for them to see, because I think the two camps are basically, is it worth the price to see somebody lip syncing? And the other side is, you go there to be a part of a Kiss concert, and this is probably going to be your last chance. And I think since kind of there's less and less of these big bands, there's going to be less and less of these big style concerts, I guess. Which brings us into our next subject, is Gene Simmons right? Is rock and roll dead?
You guys hear that? Where he's been in a lot of the press junkets and stuff.
I did.
Claiming that, that rock and roll is dead. So how do you guys feel?
Well, that statement's like 2 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he did say that about 2 years ago, and I think he is still getting flack about it.
Wait a minute. I thought I just saw him in a recent interview say that. So that's 2 years old?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah. It certainly isn't what it used to be. I mean, and Scott can attest to this, I'm sure. I mean, the bands used to make money from the records and the record deals, and the shows were just support for those records.
Yeah. And
now you have to tour, you have to be out there to make a living at it. How we're like meager or whatever. Some of these 80s hair metal bands that are still out there playing, and they're playing in clubs and a little bit larger venues than that, they have day jobs, you know?
Yeah.
So is it dead? Yeah, I think it's limping.
Right.
Well, it's a hard thing to say for somebody that it's been such a part of my life, all of my life that I can remember. It's hard to even, fathom that it could be. But at the very least, we all agree it's changing, right?
Yes.
And the club scene for bands is a lot different now. Here, anyway, where I am, than it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you could go into any bar, there'd be a band playing. You'd have to wait till 10 or 11 p.m. for them to start, and you would be there till 3 in the morning. Every bar would seem to be packed. They drew, and now you have to really promote yourself and hope your friends come just to have a crowd.
Yeah.
And it's such a different thing. And you're on at 8 and you're off at 11. In a lot of bars.
Anymore, yeah.
So,
that's where the free beer on the outside letter, what is that called? The marquee. Because then you can get the crowd in there.
Free beer tomorrow.
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, it is definitely limping, and I just remember, again, I say this a lot, but and Eddie, I'm sure you guys listened to him too. Eddie Trunk was talking about just that too, about anymore, even some of these bands that were playing arenas. You know, they're doing these, like, maybe you're lucky if you're doing like a House of Blues size of a venue, and God forbid that the promoter books you during the week, because then they do what they call paper in the house, where they couldn't sell the tickets, so they're just giving tickets away and hoping to make the money back at the bar, you know, that right. People in there. But it's rough. And then there was another story this week about that he was talking about, I think it was on maybe on his page or something, about people complaining, how come this band, that band doesn't come through, you know, Minnesota, or doesn't come through here. And he brought up an interesting point, that a lot of these bands don't care what city they're going to be playing in. They don't care if they can't make money, or if the promoter doesn't see a way to make money getting a certain band to play in a certain city, then they're not going to book them. I mean, it's not up to the band. People always think it's up to the band. You know, we're a big whatever, Blue Oyster Cult City. How come they don't play? Because there's no promoter that'll book you, you know, because they know they won't make any money.
Well, a lot of the reasons that bands used to tour every nook and cranny of the States, and even if they could get a European tour or an Asian tour, is it was to promote the album. So right. It's a twofold thing. So if they could go to Podunk whatever and win that town over, then they could in turn sell some albums or get some radio airplay.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
The thing is, if you're a nostalgic act, if you're Poison and you haven't had a new album out in 20 years, then it is just a one-off thing. There's nothing else to gain.
Yeah. So
if you're not going to sell out a show in Podunk whatever, there's no ulterior motives. There's no other reason to even be there because are doing it just to sustain the tour. Exactly. And like you said, a lot of those band members now, they're doing these tours and stuff as their moonlighting job.
Exactly. They all do regular gigs. Yeah, they have day gigs, and they do flyouts over the weekend to this club or this city or that city. Yeah, you know. Yeah, it's just right. It's just what it is. Or they have 10 things going, you know, cover bands, and then they go out and do the main band. When they get festival date, and summer's coming up, so there's a lot of, you know, Rocklahoma and all these other things. But I think about something, Art, you mentioned last week about what about a band like Angel, where they really didn't break to begin with, like they really wasn't that big of an audience then, and where's the audience going to come from now with this big tour that they're doing, you know, as Angel?
Hey, Scott, I'm sorry. You're doing something. There's a scuffling sound.
Oh.
I don't know how it's happening.
Oh.
There it is.
Oh. I think I just moved the screen. It was angled too much.
Well, it sounded like crumpling paper.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even think you could hear that.
The mic sounds better now, though.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was moving it closer because it was angled.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Oh, no. No, I was just reiterating on the whole thing with the Angel. Yeah, but like you said, there wasn't a market then. Where's the market going to come from now for this tour that they're going out on?
Yeah, they're brave by going out and trying it, but also at this point, you know, most of those guys are in their 60s. So what do you have to lose as well? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Kai and Jason Mystic in the chat says, on one side, it's easier to promote using social media. On the other hand, people are less interested in live entertainment because they would rather watch social media on their phones.
Yeah. And also, what Gene said is it levels the playing field. So if any Tom, Dick, and Harry can, or Harriet, can go out and put their music up and be, you know, use the internet as a platform, then it levels the playing field. So I think this is what Gene was saying earlier with The Rock is Dead, is that if the playing field is level, so the worst person out there has the same voice and the same platform as the best person out there, then how do you discriminate? How do you you know what I mean? How do you gauge what is good, what is important, what isn't? The way to judge these things is gone, because it used to be if you were in rotation on radio, or if you could sell out a town or a stadium or certain things. But a lot of those things are gone. So the playing field is very leveled now. And by the playing field leveled, let's just say there's only one piece of the pie. I don't believe this, but let's just say for the sake of argument, there is only one pie. Then everybody is just divvying up that same pie in smaller and smaller and smaller slices. So there's never going to be another superstar. There's never going to be another huge band. Taylor and I talk about it here, that the last really superstar bands that we can even think of are like U2 and what is it, Nirvana, right, Taylor?
Pretty much. Those are the only like large scale ones.
Wait a minute, Metallica.
No, that came out more recently, like in recent history. Metallica predates that, don't they?
I'm not so sure Metallica predates Nirvana. I think they're maybe by
they way predate Nirvana. Come on, man. I was playing like Running Low, which was based on Hit the Lights in like
83 was the first Metallica. Actually, yeah. 82. They were still playing in 82. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I take it back.
I just schooled Kevin. I feel superior now. I feel 10 feet tall.
It's hard to think of any grand scale, I guess, what you would describe as rock bands or anything close to that genre now that has these big kind of tours and stuff.
Yeah, in the last,
I have one for you. Guns N' Roses, because they came out.
I'm going to hit you, Kevin.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses actually saved rock and roll because they came out during the grunge era. Nirvana was already out there, and you can't say they weren't huge, and they're still drawn. So
okay, but that's still the same timeline that I'm talking about. I'm talking about from that timeline to now. There hasn't been any really huge bands.
All right, Nickelback.
Oh God! How dare you?
But they weren't huge.
Shoot me, but I do like them. I don't know. I don't get the hate.
It's like Metallica Light.
I don't get the hate. I really don't. I mean, they're fun. They're a fun band.
And they make great sounding records, right? I mean, big guitars, big drums.
So if I'm going to go there, I'm going Ultra Bridge. I'm not going like Nickelback.
Well, they're great, but they're a little bit over a club band, man. I don't see them.
They're not U2 big. They're not Nirvana big. They're not like, I'm talking about bands like Rolling Stones, like Kiss, like bands like that. Nickelback, if you go to the general like public, no one knows who Nickelback is.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys think there's still like I guess a rock culture in the same way that there used to be? Like because there's really no, like in LA and stuff, there's really no like scene anymore in that same kind of way.
Well, if you talk to people like my brother, yeah, there is definitely a rock culture. I don't know where these people come from, some of them, but there is, like I see, he plays all these things with these other rock bands, and that's good. That's cool. I mean, I think it's great that there is a scene, but is it, again, I don't know. I'm not sure who answered, but maybe Kevin. It's a different scene than when you were, any of us grew up.
Right.
It's very, very different. But there are still those bands playing. There's still with the Whiskey and the Hollywood. There's bands playing on any given night out there. You can go out and see a great rock band at the Viper Room or the Whiskey or any of those places. Are they great in terms of selling records and being on the scale of like when we could go out and see, the Motley Crues or the Van Halens? No, maybe not, but there's still a scene.
Yeah, it still exists, but it's very low key.
Yes.
Like you said, like the club, because when my daughter was getting into, the teen years, go to, like Chain Reaction. We went with you, Scott.
Right, right. Well, what about that scene? Exactly. That's the rock. That's exactly it. That's the rock scene.
Yeah, so that, and then LA, they still have it. There's some club in Orange County, but these guys, that's where I feel so bad. Like these guys, like you saw them, Scott. What is like Chain Reaction holds 80 people?
Yeah,
these guys are killing themselves on tour. For 80 people, the tickets are like $8 or whatever.
Yeah, and they were good, and it's a good show. Like that band. Who was it that we saw?
It was Escape the Fate, I thought.
Who was Escape the Fate? Yeah, that's it. And they were amazing. I mean, these guys should have been on the stage at the Honda Center or the Forum. I mean, they were just it's a club with 80 people, and these guys are just playing their butts off, man. And
it's a packed house, but they made walk out of that place with $100 in their pocket. And they traveled all night to get there. That's a lot of work with very, very little payoff. And they might sell a handful of albums at the merch table, you know?
Ray Thulu in the chat says, and I want to see if you guys agree with this. For smaller bands, I think getting tied into the festival circuit is the way to have a reasonably profitable tour. There are tons of bands I've discovered solely because they were on the side stage of multifaceted festivals or multi-act festivals.
I agree.
I didn't hear any of that. It all broke up to me. But,
if you can get yourself booked to these tours, like actually the last big band that I know that did that was actually, and you wanted to bring this up, Taylor, was Avenged Sevenfold.
Yes.
Because they got signed. What's the big show out here?
They do.
Wasn't Ozfest or anything, or
Warped
or one of those.
Maybe it was Warp. And they got signed by oh my gosh, was it Warner Brothers? Yeah, they got signed by Warner Brothers. They had 2 albums out prior, but they were still kind of a nightclub act. They were playing the club, even though they had the 2 albums. But that show, who was in the chat that mentioned that?
That was Ray.
Yeah, Ray's totally right, because that's what broke them. But I mean, how many bands have broke since Avenged even? Can you name a big band like that?
God.
Avenged is probably the closest, because I was it was kind of weird when I was in high school in like 2006 through 2008. There was like a random craze for metal all of a sudden that seemed to happen in like 2007. And that was when Avenged Sevenfold was getting super popular. And it was like kind of out of nowhere. All of a sudden, like every guy at the school was into Avenged Sevenfold and started getting into like Dragon Force and all those kind of bands. And it was like a random craze, it seemed like, and they were kind of everywhere. And I don't see why that hasn't happened again. I mean, I'm not in high school. Maybe there is a band that all the young guys are into, but like there hasn't been a rock like craze like that, it seems like.
No, and I don't know, you guys, I'm curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are on this too, but it seems like in recent years when there's been this sort of resurgence of rock and maybe even metal, why is it so tied to like almost nostalgia? Like they're not really, there's not really any originality. Now I know like a band like The Darkness is like the extreme where they were dressing but they were good. I mean, I liked them. I know
they're still a nostalgic act.
Yeah, but it was very nostalgic. This band who I finally got to see, that Greta Van Fleet, I finally got to see him on SNL a couple of weeks ago. I'd heard about him, never heard him, I'd never seen him. Is it good? Yeah, it's great. It's good. They're the good musicians and everything, but it seems very based in just nostalgia. Like they just listen to a lot of Led Zeppelin or something, and it doesn't. Again, I'm not discounting the fact that it's good. They're great musicians and everything, but I don't think there's anything original that's really come out. But even like Ghost is great, but right away, I thought of the comparison of like a Blue Oyster Cult, that kind of thing. Maybe more heavy. I mean, definitely more heavy, but the dark and that mysterious.
Yeah, and listen to that song, "Diary of a Madman." There's like stuff on that album, especially that song, that is almost like the template for Ghost.
Right. Oh, right. Right.
You know that?
Oh. Yeah. There's a lot of choir vocals and, yeah.
Yeah, Greta Van Fleet definitely feels like if you're a kid that's into Led Zeppelin and listen to all of Led Zeppelin, like you can listen to more because there's no more new content.
Yeah, that's it.
The singer's voice is pretty much just like if you just sampled like the baby, like and you just like looped that would be every Greta Van Fleet song.
They're just so. Yeah, I mean it's good, but I know people that think that they're just like the second coming of classic rock and roll, and oh my God, they're saving rock and roll. I don't think that, but I mean, it's okay. Like I said, I had never heard them. I had never really seen them before their performance on SNL a couple of weeks ago.
I have a strange theory, and I think it's because there are probably, and you guys will attest to this, when we were kids and we were trying to form a rock band, to get somebody that even had their own equipment was rare.
Yeah.
So now, you type in YouTube and you search around, there are kids 7, 8 years old that will play the circles around.
Oh,
like, it's insane. So there are so many virtuosos that have great equipment, that have parental like support. Like our parents wanted us just to like stop, like everything, all the neighbors. Could you just stop playing? You're making all that.
Yeah, exactly. Just stop.
Barking all the time and everything. And so there was like absolutely no support. So these kids have all the support. They have everything going for them. They have YouTube so they can watch these videos and learn all these guys' moves. And all this stuff is so documented. If you want to know any of Eddie Van Halen's licks, you know, in our day, you had to go see the show. And half the time, like Eruption and stuff, Eddie actually purposely turned his back to the crowd because he didn't want to see let people know how he was doing these things. So the thing is, now these kids have so much access to this stuff, are learning at such an accelerated, quick rate. But this is where I think bands of the past had it, and Taylor and I talk about this too, is that there was a street element to rock and roll. There was like a poor kids element. It was like, you know, like we were the poor urban kids, and you know, like I don't know, we couldn't shoot a basketball and we weren't good at boxing, but you know what? We could play a guitar or we could play drums. You know what I mean? And that was our way out. That was our way to a bigger world. And I know that rock and roll, when I was a kid playing the clubs and going to Hollywood, it expanded my entire existence at that time, you know, 16, 17, 18 years old. And if you think about it, like even the AC/DC song, Long Way to Rock and Roll, getting beat up, all those things, like that was kind of the experience. And that's kind of like, you know, picking yourself up by your bootstraps, like going against incredible odds. And you're just a punk. You're just a kid on the street. You're a punk. But these kids, you know, the rock and roll now, they don't have those experiences, and they don't have that individual like life lessons or experiences that they're bringing to the music. So all they can kind of do is emulate things that they've seen on YouTube or that are well documented. So their virtuoso level, their player and their musicianship is par none. But they just don't have that pioneer spirit, or they don't have that, whatever that fire is to make your mark, you know, the same way as an AC/DC or a Led Zeppelin or, you know, whatever it was.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder if like any of this has to do with how much, I guess, the culture has changed. Because like rock and roll guys are a very particular breed. Like when you're in high school, like they're not really jocks. They don't really fit into that category. They don't really fit in like a geeky category. They're kind of their own category, I guess. Yeah. And there's not, I don't know, I guess because we live in a really weird time where like masculinity is looked down upon. Yeah. And it's kind of a weird zone. I don't know if that's anything to do with it. Ray Thulu says, do you like Zeppelin during their physical graffiti era? That's Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I mean, they just sound, I was shocked at how much like Led Zeppelin they actually sounded when they were on, like I said, SNL. It just surprised me. I had heard people, oh, they're just kind of copying, it's kind of like a Led Zeppelin. I was surprised at how much.
Yeah. And the bands of old, they still had their influences, so I don't want to make it sound like all bands now are just nostalgic acts and you know what I mean? But I just don't think the originality or those same experiences are there. It's almost like they're playing their music from a safe, zone. There's no danger to what they're doing. And I think there was this kind of level of danger and street, and you didn't know what to expect. When you saw the Doors, you didn't know what the hell they were going to do, there was this dangerous aspect to it. Although I heard that Jim Morrison was like, they always say he's borderline genius and clown.
Yes.
One minute he would be like this amazing rock god, and the next minute he'd be like this clown on stage. So, but you didn't know what you were going to get. There was this like kind of crazy, unexpected, like what's going to happen thing. And I think there's a lot of predictability with music today. And it's just not quite as dangerous, I think.
No.
Well, do you guys think, like, I don't know if you listen to any, I guess, foreign bands, because someone in the chat says the rock scene is thriving, just not so much in the U.S.
That's true. I think that's been the case for a long time, though. I think that it's just more prominent in Europe, and even like when I used to go over there, when I was even on the road with that Eric Sardinas guy, it's just such a big. It's just like a throwback to the '80s. Like there's still just guys that look like they're hanging out on the strip, in the '80s, just with the hair and the whole look. Just that's just still a very prominent thing. And again, that's already going on probably almost 20 years ago. But even now, I mean, it just seems to be more prominent there. Norwegian, Norway, and places like that. There's still a big.
Well, that's kind of where Ghost came from. They were kind of, I guess, got lumped in the death metal scene, but I think they were way more melodic, I guess, than most of that stuff. More commercial.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat brought up baby metal.
Wait.
The Japanese? Is it Japanese?
Yeah, the Japanese metal band with the little girls.
Oh my God.
The three little girls, right?
Yeah, it's kind of getting popular now. I don't know. They're okay.
What was that one Japanese band? They were called Loudness or something?
There was. Oh yeah, they were great.
I always thought they were, how like the Scorpions, when they started, they just sang the English phonetically. And I think that Loudness band, didn't they? It was all phonetic, right? They didn't really know the words or the meanings.
But later on they did. Actually, they came through the States. My brother went and saw them. I mean, it's probably been like a year ago. They played a very small club in Orange County. I think they played Slide Bar.
I've been there.
Yeah, Loudness with minus the drummer. I think the drummer had passed away, but he said they were great. And then I think they did the Whiskey. I think they did play the Whiskey too when they came through. But they were great records, great band. Speaking of a very Kiss influenced band, I mean, they've always sort of worn that on their sleeve too. That they were a big Kiss. Kiss was so huge in Japan.
Yeah.
Didn't Gene Simmons produce them?
I'm sorry?
Didn't Gene Simmons produce Loudness?
I think he did. I know he another great Japanese band was EZO that Gene Simmons
maybe that was the one.
Produced, and they sounded so similar, EZO and Loudness.
Yeah, they did.
Very similar.
Somebody in the chat brought up or Draken is naming some bands, I guess Disturbed.
They're big. I mean, they're huge. They're an arena rock band. They're playing pretty big venues. They have hits. Yeah, definitely keeping that alive. Absolutely.
The covering of the Simon and Garfunkel song threw some major limelight on them. That was a smart move.
Yeah.
And Guar
Yeah, I was just watching some footage on Guar, and yeah, that's definitely. See, well, there you go. That's a whole other thing, but.
Well, then you can get into juggalos and all that stuff too. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think that's mainstream Guar.
Right? Yeah, it's not mainstream. Yeah.
They fling meat.
Yeah.
But they have a barbecue at the end of the show, like a reverse tailgate party. Like at the end, it's like they just like barbecue up the meat that they flung out in the crowd.
Unknown Gamer brings up, which is kind of also a nostalgia act, is Steel Panther, of course.
Oh yeah, but that's solely nostalgic. I mean, that's the whole purpose. You know, I mean, they're good. It's good. The records, you know, it's funny, but yeah, that's complete. That's just homage to the whole rock, you know, scene and the lifestyle, and yeah, they're great.
Having said that, do you think maybe people today, because Taylor and I, you know, because we write and draw and we create, you know, stories, and so we're always trying to figure out what the fan base is and who we're writing and creating this stuff for. Do you think, because one of the things we talk about is if it kind of is a little bit overly sentimental or, I don't know, not cliche, but a little bit more like heartfelt, I guess, it becomes kind of corny by today's like standard. And do you think maybe a lot of these bands and stuff, or rock in general, or at least the way rock existed in the day, is considered kind of cliche or corny? And so, you know, people just aren't kind of accepting it the way they once did. And maybe the reason nostalgic acts, like even this Kiss show that we're watching now, is kind of a nostalgic act, is because there is an admittance that it's corny. You know what I mean? But it's such a spectacle. It's such a big thing that people still want to see it, but they recognize that it is kind of corny. So do you think that maybe there's a difference in, because if you look at movies of our time and things like that, there was a little bit more acceptance to things that aren't quite as acceptable today as far as subject matter. So do you think like the sex, drugs, rock and roll, some of these big presentations, some of the lyrical content is kind of, I don't know, just not quite, I don't know, relevant?
Yeah, but how come? Well, here's a question: how come in the rock arena it's sort of like you said, it's an old cliche, and oh, that's old, you know, almost silly and sort of frowned upon, but like this whole rock and roll lifestyle with like hip hop culture, and even some of the country bands have adapted this whole sort of rock and roll lifestyle thing. How come it's so accepted with them?
Well, I think because it's not considered corny. It's not
but if it's the same thing, like I don't even know who
country acts dressing and doing this that we're watching now.
No, but I just saw some footage of some country act, and I mean, just the enormity of the stage and the pyro. I mean, it was right out of a page.
Well, maybe they just found their fan base. Maybe that fan base is more Midwest and more accepting of some of these more corny, I guess, you know, for the lack of a better term. Those aren't my words, because I don't think it's corny. I like it still.
Yeah, but, Kevin, what are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Honestly, hang on a quick second here. I'm just trying to get out of the noise. My heat came on in my house, and I have steam radiator heat. I suddenly have a construction crew going on. I got to plead the fifth on this one, because I was distracted. So I do apologize.
This is why rock is dead.
That's a good way out, Kevin. Very diplomatic. I just didn't hear what you guys were talking about.
You know, there are.
We're putting Kevin to sleep.
To buy Kevin some time. The only thing equivalent I can think of is that there are like DJs, I guess, who dress up like Deadmau5 and stuff. And they kind of like have, you know, and even oh my gosh, why can't I remember their names?
The Daft Punk guys.
Daft Punk.
Yeah, like they dress up and it's not considered tacky, even though you know, it's really strange. Like they're the only other equivalent I can think of, but it's really weird.
But what's the subject matter? I mean, how's it presented? Because I do think like Nirvana and that grunge kind of took rock out of that, you know, I guess more cornier aspect, and it went, instead of outwardly, it went in, so it went more psychological. And I think now, like movies and stuff like that, if they're going to do something on the corny spectrum, that they almost either wink and nod to it, like, isn't this corny, wink wink, or they full on make fun of it in kind of a parody way. And I believe that's why Steel Panther has a career, because that's kind of what Steel Panther is doing. So it almost, it's like what is that show that they had, even, was it VH1, where they would kind of like, I love the 70s, and they would point out the cornier aspects of those times. So I think the current audience, I'm not saying that they don't like it or they wouldn't like it, but in the day, they didn't make apologies for it. They just presented it. Like Kiss just was Kiss, no apologies. But now it seems like this stuff has to be like prefaced with, oh, this is silly, right? You know what I mean? Like that.
All right. Okay, now I have an opinion. What about bands, and you know, and if you mentioned them, what about bands like Mushroom Head, like Gwar, even Ghosts? I mean, they're all dressing up. They're all doing a theatrical act. Yeah. Right? Or am I behind the 8 ball on this one?
No, I think you're right. I think Ghost is Ghost definitely, even though it is really weird and like kind of tacky, the lead singer especially really embraces it. Like,
but he also nods to it. That guy does. He never says this is corny or whatever, but he kind of, it's very tongue in cheek the way that guy presents the show. And that Ghost show, the reason it works is it's somewhat ironic, like the way he presents it. It's almost like, isn't this silly? We're doing this Satan rock. You know what I mean? Like, he's not totally going like, you know, where Ozzy was like, I'm the son of Satan or whatever, you know. Yeah. They're definitely, it's wink, wink, nudge, nudge with that band. They're acknowledging that this is fun and silly.
Yeah.
I think all entertainment, like, I don't know, the time that we're living in has like a weird low self-esteem element where there always has to be a disclaimer for the people that aren't going to like it. Like everything feels like it has a disclaimer on it of like, this is kind of silly, like for everything, even if they don't.
You can't just throw it. Yeah, I know what you're saying with that.
I just want to back up for a minute. I'm not saying that I don't like it, or that I make excuses for it, or that this is even like fact. I just, you know, just as an entertainer myself, and the things, like I said, that Taylor and I do creatively, we're trying to find an audience and trying to design things and create things for an audience. And one of the things that I have noticed over time, since I am an older guy, that things used to just be very matter of fact. It's like Kiss would just be, we're Kiss. And that would be it. They never made any apologies or anything like that. And now things seem like they have to wink, wink that this is like, oh, this is a throwback, or this is nostalgic, or whatever, as a way to sell the cornier aspects of it. So there's an acknowledgement of these things versus just being very matter of fact about it. You know, just throwing it out there and let people see for themselves. Like even like in our day, there was a movie called Big Trouble in Little China, which I absolutely love. But that movie was just matter of fact. Even the actors are playing it totally serious. You know, if you look at the Three Stooges, as crazy as that, they were playing it totally serious. There was never a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know, they were never looking at the camera like, isn't this silly? You know, they were playing it straight. But now it just seems like there is a certain amount of like, you have to acknowledge that this is kind of a throwback, or this is kind of silly. Try to sell it to a more cynical, I guess, audience.
Yeah, spoon feed. You got to spoon feed people. They don't get it. I mean, I see exactly what you're saying, and I agree.
Rafe in the chat brings up, I think, a valid one is a Slipknot, because Slipknot is very much like edge. They're very like kind of edgelordy and silly, but they don't really nod to it. They still talk about themselves and present themselves like they're the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
They never really break character that way.
Yeah, some of it still does exist. I'm not saying, I think in life, nothing's ever either or. Nothing's all one thing or all the other. But it's just an observation. And like I said, when we read things here, just to try to figure out who our audience is and then how to present it. Do you wink to it? Do you make an acknowledgement of this is kind of on the sillier spectrum? Because I noticed when we are, and I don't want to go off on a tangent too much, but the way that we sell black and white, since it is kind of based on a 90s book, and 90s were a little bit more accepting of some of the more cornier aspects of entertainment, the movies, everything of that time. So, we're finding ourselves kind of referencing those things, saying, this was a sillier time. This isn't meant to be taken 100% seriously. This is just a fun kind of action adventure story.
Right.
Yeah.
Draken says, what you're talking about is fourth wall breaking and a lack of camp. That definitely has to do with the lack of talent, not the audience wanting it or liking it.
Ooh, I like that.
That is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the things that are successful are less self-referential and less fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, but if you notice, even humor, like mostly humor, like Family Guy and stuff, those guys are winking and nodding to all things in the past, and they're showing how stupid or silly those things are. Like a lot of the humor is like holding up a mirror to like, wasn't it silly back then?
Right.
Wasn't this? A lot of the humor is that now, and that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Exactly, like Draken says in the chat, and it kind of nails exactly what you said. He said it's a psychological trick to go, hey, you should think this is funny or cool, rather than it just being funny and cool.
Yeah, or like saying, don't judge me harshly because it's corny.
Yeah.
It's like Paul Stanley, back on Paul Stanley, like saying, yeah, we're not lip syncing. It's like, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I feel like I hijacked this thing.
No.
We put Kevin to sleep. So.
Not enough Eric Carr talk.
No, see? Yeah,
which we could dedicate. Yeah, we could dedicate a segment to that era.
Yeah, so you guys, just as always with these shows, and I think this is one of the funner aspects, is where we kind of try to come up with the next show live on this show. So what do you guys want to do next?
Well, by the next show, I will have seen the show tomorrow. We can try that for a segment. But my idea would be, that's not a bad idea with the whole that era, the band, Eric Carr, maybe even Vinnie Vincent, discuss that possibly.
Oh man, we could talk about the best songs, the best videos, etc.
Yeah,
it'd be like an extended this day in history.
Yeah.
So kind of like a like the non-original member kind of.
Yeah, it's like what I call the second era of Kiss, of Kisstory.
Okay, would it be like pros and cons, or like just to narrow, like how we would, like the topic, what would it be?
Kevin, thoughts?
You know what? What do you think about? It doesn't have to be next week, but maybe not every week, but maybe we should review albums. What do you think of that too?
I like that.
I could get into that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about just Eric Carr. I'm just maybe from the ground up. It would take us
That's a great idea.
Well, the thing is, if we did do that, there's a lot of albums, and it seems like we could probably do an hour on each one of the albums. Or would you want to like split the show, do like half the show where we review one of the, and we can go in chronological order as well. We would do like review an album, all four of us, and then whatever, you know, like for the first half, and then whatever the second half would be, we would make up as we went along.
Could do something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
We got a suggestion in the chat too, and I think we should do this in the future. If we don't get flagged, and if we can do this screen share feature. They want Ray wants us to do a Phantom of the Park watch along commentary.
Oh, that would be good.
You know what? It's probably on YouTube anyway.
Oh, you can stream the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So then
what you'll find it.
Yeah.
Oh okay. God. Well, let's see what the chat thinks. So we could do. God, how many albums does Kiss have now?
A lot.
It has something like 26 studio albums.
A lot.
That would be 26 episodes if we did one album per episode.
I mean, think about that. Just the non-makeup era, and even the recent ones. You know, Sonic Boom and Monster, and yeah.
What would give me excuse to, because there's a lot of albums, to be honest, that I haven't heard. So it would be fun to, you know, hear some of those albums.
Yeah. They all have their personalities, yeah.
They do.
Yeah, so you want to try that, and then we can do, like next week, we can do the first Kiss album review.
That's
and then we can hear what Scott.
I was going to say after Scott's review of the show.
And then I'll do a segment on the show, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Yeah, man.
Durakin says he wants an episode called The Cats of Kiss, talking about every cat that the members have owned.
Oh my God.
Somebody's a cat fan. That's deep history.
We could do a Peter Criss dedicated one at some point, but...
Oh, by the way, you guys, Taylor's turned into a huge Kiss fan.
Good.
So yesterday, she forced me to watch the Donahue interview. Well, it was
with Peter Criss?
Yeah.
Wait, that's an episode we should do. We should do a watch along reaction to that show.
The homeless guy? Is that the homeless guy?
Yes.
Yeah. That thing is so crazy. and it's so weird because I know they probably exaggerated some of the points.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that there is a real fundamental truth to what happened, and then they just embellished it. But my gosh, just even the basic idea is nuts.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I'm not even gonna explain in the chat what it is. We'll just do it because I don't want to spoil it. Somebody hasn't seen this, because I kind of knew of it peripherally, but I didn't see it because I remember the headline when it came out. I didn't know the details of it, and it's hilarious. And I just want to say this: was Donahue like on some serious coke or whatever? That guy's eyes are plugging out of his.
Yeah. He seemed amped out.
He was wired.
Yeah, he's wired.
He's like, can you believe this?
Wired, I know. Yeah.
He's rolling his eyes.
Yeah.
It is the weirdest thing.
Donahue. My God.
That's a name that we haven't heard in years.
God, I know. Jeez.
We'll definitely have to do an episode just watching and commenting on that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, you guys. So next week we'll listen to Scott's review.
I'll do a review. Yeah.
Where are you gonna go see him, Scott?
It's tomorrow night, Sacramento, Golden One Arena in Sacramento.
Okay, if you can shoot some video stuff like that, maybe if we have audio visual, we can show you walking into the arena and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And the same, we got to get some footage now of Kevin rocking the dump.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then somehow, I say this every episode, we got to get Kevin over here on the West Coast.
Revenge tour. Yeah.
That's fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That would be
awesome.
A great
Revenge.
You wanted the best.
You got it. Revenge.
Okay, so you guys got any parting shots or anything you want to plug?
No. I mean, other than hopefully posting more stuff on bandmix.com, just the SMP music. I mean, that's kind of it.
Yeah,
Kevin?
I got a gig tomorrow with Revenge.
Where?
It's called the Flight Line Pub. It's actually about a 5-minute walk from my house.
Nice. Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'll be carrying my drums on my back over there.
Yeah. Wow.
How cold is it there?
It was pretty warm today. It was almost, I would say, almost 40 today, but tomorrow it's going to be 20 tomorrow. So.
Hey, Kevin, it got 50 here, and everybody lost their minds.
I know it. I saw your post, and all I could do was laugh at you.
Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah. There's a freeze warning in California.
Yeah. Bring your pets in. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, at least I'm not in Chicago, so I'm happy for that.
Yeah, where you're shoveling 10 feet of snow just to get your car.
Yeah. We've had snow, but not a lot, not too much. We had maybe 16 inches a few weeks back. It's almost gone now.
Do you have one of those snow blowers?
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Got it. Yeah.
Yep. Got it.
God.
Got a KISS logo on the side of it.
Get it.
Yeah, I know. No, but that's it. I'll be doing some shows this spring. Nickel City Con for comic book convention in Buffalo. Great Philly Con, Philadelphia, obviously Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And one in New Jersey. Some couple local shows too. So.
Well, if you guys don't know, Kevin plays in a KISS cover band called Revenge, and they're going to be playing tomorrow night. And Kevin is also a brilliant comic book artist. So he worked on the Psycho Circus comics and Spawn and some of the X-Men books. And so he still tours around and does conventions and things. So if you want to get a drawing by him or an autograph on your Psycho Circus books, seek him out at those shows.
Yeah, man.
And also the link in the description. We got Scott Palacios SMP Media if you want to check out that stuff. And also Kevin Conrad's art at kevinconradart.com.
And Taylor, we have something going on?
We do. Our book, Black and White Remastered, is, of course, still live on Indiegogo. It's in demand. If you want to pick up a book, we will be in demand until we go to printing. So go ahead and do that. And we also have Oodles of Doodles, which is our next campaign coming up this month. And if you want to stay up to date to that, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We do talk about comic stuff. We're not talking about KISS. And make sure to join the newsletter.
Nice.
Yeah, it's on the Art by Thibert site, and I think there's a link there. So thank you guys too, and thanks to everybody that pledged for the Black and White book. We are working diligently on it and getting closer every day to finishing it. So thank you for your patience. And also this week, man, we sold a ton of books. So thank you guys for coming back and purchasing some books and continue, because the campaign is going to be open for at least another month or so until we can go to press on the book. So thank you guys, and thanks for the super chats in the past. I don't think we got one this episode, but thanks for the super chats in the past. And are we done?
Yeah. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a KISS Corner, and go ahead and check out Kevin Conrad's art, check out Black and White, and check out SMP Media on Facebook.
And we'll see you guys next week with another KISS Corner. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.